What's up, everybody? It's Izzy. I haven't made a video here in about 3 weeks, and I apologize for that. What ended up happening is that I tore my left adductor, so I got it diagnosed at the doctor and everything, and I'm not going to be able to do squats or really any leg training for 3 to 8 weeks. And I've tried pretty much everything, every variation that you can think of, and they all caused pain. So complete rest off of squats was really the only option, and I couldn't do things like sumo deadlift either. Basically anything with deep hip flexion was causing pain and aggravating the injury. So when I first got that news, it kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit as far as my enthusiasm for posting a lot and talking about powerlifting all day. And, I didn't want to sit there and frustrate myself watching everybody else make progress while I was hurt. So I took a small social media blackout here for a few weeks. But, I'm kind of over the injury now. I'm in a better place mentally, so I figured it's time to get the train rolling again and get back on the good habits of posting frequently. But anyway, what I want to talk about in this video is actually the current structure of powerlifting and how it is actually anti-competitive in nature. So one of the things about IPF Worlds is that they basically try to structure the Olympics. It's like a mock Olympic meet. And what I mean by that is that you get one representative, more or less, in each weight class from each country. I mean, there's what it really is that there's a certain amount of slots available to each country, and each country brings, the lifters that they are going to think have the best chance for medals. Well, in the US, how it works is that if you win nationals in your weight class, then you're invited to compete at Worlds in that weight class. But generally, there's always a few people who don't end up going because it's too far away or whatever, or too much money. But so they end up picking alternates. But the bottom line is that there's only a certain number of slots for each country. And I don't think this really makes any sense. Like, it makes sense in the Olympics where all of the different sports are kind of on one team. It's like which country gets the most medals and as a source of national pride. But in powerlifting, it's kind of silly to have this team structure when powerlifting is such an individual sport. And the fans really just want to see individual lifters a lot more than they want to see country versus country. Very few people are interested in the country versus country aspect as much as they're interested in head-to-head matchups. And so when you have things like, John Hack versus Brett Gibbs in the 83s, it's like one of the most viewed sessions of all time. And that's because people want to see that competition, those head-to-head matchups. And the problem with the current structure is that the big countries are basically being unfairly penalized by being given less slots. And it's not a merit-based system for them. I mean, the thing is that you can have people at Worlds, who are 200 or 300 kilos behind the winner because their country is so weak as far as the competition. Like, there's countries that are sending representatives to IPF Worlds whose qualifying totals, are less than like the 25th or 30th American. And that's really unfair and really anti-competitive. And this is the reason why USAPL Nationals is actually a lot more competitive and in some ways more exciting than IPF Worlds, because instead of having isolated matchups at the top of a few classes, USAPL Nationals is stacked in every single weight class because, let's face it, the United States has most of the best lifters in the world. We're one of the biggest countries, and it just really doesn't make sense to limit the countries to a certain number of slots, especially if, this results in certain countries being able to send people that are not even the same caliber of lifter. Like, if you're losing by 200 to 300 kilos, you should not be at Worlds. Like, you're too far away from the rest of the pack. It's just ridiculous. So, I mean, even in the Olympics, they don't have it to that extent. Like, you'll have multiple people from the same country in the same event. But in powerlifting, it's a different story, and I think that this is one of the things that they can improve to make this a more viewer-friendly sport, is just stop doing things that are so anti-competitive. And this is probably the biggest one, in my opinion. It's it's really holding us back from being able to see the best matchups that all of us want to see. Like Worlds, when we go to Worlds, it shouldn't just be U.S. representative John Hack versus Brett Gibbs. We should also see like Russell Orhii there, Sean Noriega, Johnny Candido. There's a whole host, of other 83s across the world, but there's a lot of them in the United States that are very, very good. Like we have like 6 or 7 maybe of the top 10. And I think what this really speaks to is that powerlifting should be using a ranking system for Worlds, or like a contender system similar to like combat sports, rather than using this country-based representative system, because it makes IPF Worlds actually less competitive and less of a big not less of a big deal, but it does make IPF Worlds less competitive if you have 10 to 15 competitors in each weight class and only 5 of them have any decent shot to medal. Whereas, like, let's say if you switched it to a ranking system where the top 15 people with the best qualifying totals, regardless of country, you would have a lot more competition, and the top and the bottom would be separated by 50 kilos, instead of 300. It would actually be a lot more interesting. You'd see a lot more jockeying for placing on certain lifts, and overall, I think it would make the viewing experience a lot better, which in the long run is only going to grow the sport of powerlifting. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about this. I got this idea from a JP Kauke and Brett Gibbs video, and I thought they had some really good points. So if you want to check out their podcast about how to make powerlifting more competitive, it's on a YouTube channel called Powerlifting Exposed. I recommend you check it out. It's a pretty interesting podcast, and I really agree with almost all the points that were made in the video. But anyways, what I want to get at here is I'm wondering what your guys' thoughts are about what I'm saying. Do you think powerlifting should move away from a nation-based representative system to a ranking or contender system where we just simply invite the top 10 or 15 best lifters in terms of qualifying total, regardless of where they're from, even if that results in certain weight classes having 10 people from the United States or from Russia? Do you think that we should use a contender system, or do you think it makes more sense the way it is now, where each country gets a certain amount of representatives regardless of whether or not their best representative is even competitive? Anyways, that's all I have to say, guys. Good luck with your training, and have a great day. Peace.